Hello, I am Repacharge, and I hold the world record in 8 different categories in Plants vs. Zombies 2, and I am here to give you a tier list for the plants in Plants vs. Zombies 2. And we're going to start off with the unused/utility section, and those are 3 plants: Twin Sunflower, Cherry Bomb, and Lily Pad. Cherry Bomb and Sunflowers are not used in speedruns because they arrive at the end of the game after you complete the speedrun, so they're pointless. I can't rank them because they're never used. And Lily Pad, it seems pretty self-explanatory. It's a utility plant. It's the only plant that you can plant on water to give the rest of your plants the ability to function, so lily pads, they're not really a fair ranking. One thing I should note, these first 7 plants are used in every single category in the game, because they appear within the first 6 levels, and every single category, you can use them if you want to. And because of that, they pop up a lot more than other plants. So to start off with, we have Pea Shooter, and this is C tier. Pea Shooter is a very clear C tier, and the reason why is because it's the best option out of the plants that you have. It's the best damage per sun cost in the early game, in the beginning of the game. So all of your short speedruns, they're always going to be using Pea Shooter in some form because it's the best option that you have out of your starting plants in terms of constant damage. However, it gets pretty outclassed once you get into later levels and later speedruns, so it's just C tier. Next up, we have Potato Mine, and Potato Mine is S tier. Potato Mine is S tier, and it's easily one of the best plants in the game, and there are only 2 S tier plants, and Potato Mine is one of them. It's incredible for the fact that it's a very low cost instant that you can play in any single level. So it doesn't matter what the zombie is, what the issue is in the game, you can plant a potato mine, use plant food on it if you want to, and kill the zombie. It's used in like 80% of levels, just in general. It's always used, it's always great. There are a couple like niche times where it's not helpful, and it really depends on like certain categories. However, single use, low cost instant plants, and just instant plants in general in this game, and speedrunning specifically, is incredible. It's so nice. And having potato mine does all those jobs extremely well. Next up, we have Sunflower, and Sunflower is A tier. Sunflower, it's your main sun producing plant in the game. There are, a couple other options, but they're only in like a handful of worlds and they're not used throughout the run. Sunflower is incredible. It's a very high producing sun cost plant, and the fact that you get it at the very start of the game, like one of the first, 3 or 4 plants that you start out with, it's awesome. It's awesome that you get it at the start of the game, and it's a great sun cost producer, and it helps the game go a lot faster and flow really nicely. Next up, we have Cabbage, and Cabbage is B tier. Cabbage is very useful for short speedruns, so early game speedruns, just like Pea Shooter, it's very good, and the reason why is because its plant food effect kills every single basic zombie on the screen. And for a lot of the early levels in the game, so for example Ancient Egypt or World Keys %, stuff like that, having a way to just kill all the basic zombies can sometimes just mean that you're killing every zombie on the screen. And having a plant food effect, which basically wipes out the entire board, I don't have to tell you, that's really good. That's very powerful, it's very nice, and the plant food effect, catapults it right up to B. Rounding out our player's house plants, we have Walnut, and this is it's either B tier or C tier. I'm gonna put it B tier. It's gonna be at like the bottom of B tier. It's a very good stalling plant, and honestly, once again, it fulfills its objective. It's, something that you're gonna have in every single game, and it's a very good stalling plant to deal with zombies that you don't want to, overrun your defenses. Like, you want to get up sunflowers, but you don't want to deal with a zombie, so you want to stall. This does the job extremely well, especially against like 1 or 2 regular zombies. If you're having trouble with one specific lane, you can just plant a walnut zombie and then stall out. It's, it's a walnut. It does its job really well. It's very helpful for certain levels and certain zombies, and I have to use that very specifically because sometimes it's not that good, and sometimes it just has too many weaknesses of the recharge time takes forever. There are better options out there in terms of stalling plant, like our next plant up, Iceberg Lettuce, can just get outclassed pretty easily by other plants. We're going to follow that up with Iceberg Lettuce, and this one is very interesting because it is either F tier or A tier. It depends on the category. If the zombies are really hard to beat and it's a really difficult level, Iceberg Lettuce is often incredible. First of all, its plant food ability is the ultimate stall. It's better than any other stall plant in the game. You get to literally freeze every single zombie for like 7 seconds. That gives you so much valuable time that you need to win. The hardest level in Big Wave Beach is literally only beatable because of the Iceberg Lettuce. However, in categories of speedrunning, like the easy levels, for example, Ancient Egypt or Pirate Seas, Iceberg Lettuce is basically useless. It's a stall plant, but you often don't want to use it. You don't need to stall when you're beating the game quickly. Like, typically in speedrunning modes where you want to beat the game quickly, you don't want to stall as often. However, sometimes you need to stall, and when you need to stall, this is an incredible plant. So I'm gonna split the difference, and I'm gonna put in C tier. And to round out the first 7 plants that you get at the start of the game, we have Bloomerang. And Bloomerang is C tier as well. If you don't have another option for Pierce. Pierce is basically, can the plant that you're using hit multiple zombies at the same time? So for example, Snapdragon can hit every zombie in a 3x3 lane, and Bloomerang can hit the first 3 zombies in it. So having some amount of Pierce is actually very helpful for certain levels. Specifically, there are last stand levels in Pirate Seas, and I think one in Ancient Egypt, if I remember correctly, where Bloomerang is just the way to go because it's able to hit multiple zombies at once and therefore trigger the 50% real faster and mow down the zombies a lot faster. But other than that, it's not really useful. It costs a lot, and often if you have better options for damage output, you want to use those better options. For those fringe cases, you know, it is kind of useful. It is a nice plant to have in your back pocket. All right, next up we have Repeater, and Repeater is D tier. The issue is that you get it way too late in the game and it gets outclassed by Bok Choy, and I'll get into Bok Choy in a bit, but Repeater, it doesn't do its job well, and it does a lot of damage, but it costs too much, and ultimately you just want to use Bok Choy, which is probably... Ooh, Bok Choy, Bok Choy. It's one of my favorite plants in the game, but I think I'm gonna have to put it B tier. And the issue is that this is only playable in one speedrun category, and only individual level for Ancient Egypt is like the only time that you really use Bok Choy, unless if it's, you know, given to you in whatever certain level. But it's really good in Ancient Egypt. It's incredible. It has a plant food, which is basically just a cherry bomb, which is very good. You can, you know, put 2 at the very where the zombies spawn, and then just spam plant foods on it, and then win the level. It's a very cool plant. I really like it. I can't put it in A tier because it's only used in one category. I really want to though, but I won't. It's gonna be at the top of B tier for me. And then rounding out our list, we have Gravebuster, and Gravebuster is A tier. It's a free plant. It gets rid of a really annoying mechanic that you always have to work around in speedruns, and you can just clear a lot more waves, and you can go a lot faster than if you didn't have Gravebuster. All right, moving on to Pirate Seas. Pirate Seas is very interesting. Kernel Pult is the first plant you get, and is almost never used. It's probably top of D tier for me, honestly. The issue is that Cabbage Bolt is just strictly better. There's only one advantage, which is that it kills those like upside down zombies that fly over your defense. But even then, if you plant your defense correctly, Cabbage Bolt is still better because its AoE effect is usually better. And even in levels where they want you to play around Kernel Pult, Cabbage Bolt typically is the option that you'd rather have. It's just D tier for me. Next up, we have Snapdragon, and Snapdragon is A tier. This is another really good plant. It's a 3x3 radius. Its plant food is literally a cherry bomb. It actually just blows up everything in a 3x3 radius, and planting like 2 or 3 of these can basically, you know, annihilate an entire level, can just carry you to the end because it's that powerful, and it's an easy A tier for me. Next up, we have Threepeater, and Threepeater is never used. It's still gonna be D tier. There are a couple levels where Threepeater is given to you for free. Conveyor belt level, for example, is when Threepeater is used, and in those cases it's pretty nice to have, but otherwise you never want to bring it with you into a level because it's just too slow. It doesn't do enough. There are other options like Snapdragon, for example, which is just better. It just does its job but better, and Threepeater is often outclassed. However, when it's given to you for free, it's a pretty good plant, you know? Next up, we have Spikeweed, and Spikeweed is... I'm going to put it at the bottom of D tier. I can think of a couple of use cases in Pirate Seas where Spike Rock is liked, and being able to destroy that one thing is pretty nice, and having, you know, an effect that can use, you know, technically has Pierce. It can be enjoyable, but often it's just completely outclassed. It's, you know, Snapdragon is just better, so you're never bringing this into a level because Snapdragon is just better as an option, and it's typically outclassed by all of the other options in the game. So it's just bad. Yeah, that's all there's to say about it. Next up, we have Spring Bean, and Spring Bean is at the top of A tier. This is an incredible plant. Once again, I'm only basing Spring Bean off of Pirate Seas since that's the only time that you can really use the plant to be effective. But man, when you use it in Pirate Seas, this is an incredible plant. Remember how I said how insta-kill plants that are cheap are really good in this game? Spring Bean is a cheap instant kill plant that can be used multiple times before dying because it recharges, right? So it's a rechargeable instant kill plant that is cheap, and its plant food is literally a doom shroom. It can clear the entire board. What? How was this made? This is an incredible plant, and the only reason that's not an S tier is because it's only playable in one world. If it was viable in multiple worlds, this would be S tier, but because it's only usable in one world, it is only A tier. Alright, next up we have Spike Rock, and Spike Rock, it's basically the same as Spikeweed. It suffers all of the same problems. It has a slightly better upside, which is that it deals a bit more damage, and it can stall Gargantuars for longer, but other than that, it's not the best unless if it's, you know, given to you for free in a conveyor belt level. You never see this. I don't even think you see this once in Pirate Seas individual level, so I'm gonna put it behind Spikeweed. But there are some levels later in the game where if it's given to you for free, it works. It's a plant, and it is kind of nice when it works to its effectiveness, but it's often just never used, and it's just slower. it costs too much, it's too slow of an effect, and there are always better options. And last up in Piracies, we have Coconut Cannon. And this one's really interesting. I think it suffers the same thing that I said about Spike Rock and Spikeweed. However, it is used more often as an insta-kill plant. I'm gonna bump it up to C tier, actually. The reason why is because I really like the mechanics for the minigame in Piracies that uses Coconut Cannon, where you try to fire at the zombies and you try to get a high score. I think that's a really well designed and really a cool idea for a level. And not only that, it is that's a bit non-speedrun of an answer. However, it is also used in other levels as a one-shot effectiveness, and its plant food effect in Zomboss levels is very nice. It's a very high power, high output damage option, and it can, you know, clear a row of problematic zombies in Zomboss. It's a cool plant, it's a really cool design, and it is helpful to go faster in certain Zomboss levels for sure. Alright, now we're moving on to Wild West, and we're gonna start off with Split Pea, and Split Pea is D tier. It is the very bottom of D tier. It should be F tier. It really should be F tier. However, there is one use case. There is one level in Wild West where Split Pea is very effective and is very nice. And because of that, I can't put it F tier. But it is always outclassed and outshined by every other plant pretty much. The one use case for it is a conveyor belt levels where you often get overrun with gargantuars, and the way to solve this is to put Split Pea near the front of the lawn and use the plant food effect on the repeater part of the Split Pea to deal with gargantuars more effectively, and it's the best option for plant food that you have in that level. Otherwise, it's just bad. It's outclassed in every single way. And speaking of plants that get completely outclassed in every single way, we have this guy, Peapod, and Peapod is F tier. This is very obvious. It's not close. You don't care about conserving space pretty much, which is what Peapod is. It's a way to conserve space for your plants, but you're speedrunning. You do not care. It's a 125 sun cost for basically a pea shooter, and its plant food effect sucks. It's not good. There's always better options for it. It's even when levels are designed around it, it's still not even that good, and it's very often just a hindrance and not a fun plant to play with. It's an easy F tier for me. Next up, we have a cheap insta-kill plant, and you know where this is going, straight into A tier. This is, once again, insta-kill plants in this game are very good, and you can basically instantly kill any bucket head poncho zombies as well, especially the hardened poncho zombies where it has that grate that basically makes it a bucket head level of durability. Having this bean that can just instantly kill it is incredible. It makes games go by so fast. And speaking of a plant that makes levels go by really fast, we have Lightning Reed, and Lightning Reed, A tier, very easy A tier. This and Chili Bean basically shreds through the entirety of every single level in Wild West. It's insane. It makes the entire world just a complete joke. Spamming like 20 or whatever lightning reeds makes the game go by so quickly, and its plant food effect is also incredible. It's really good. You can just spam it over and over again, and you just breeze through like half of the levels in Wild West. It's insanely powerful. And speaking of insanely powerful, we have Tall Nut, which is not insanely powerful. It's an F tier. It's not really used. Once again, like I think there's some niche cases where you want Tall Nut. However, once again, just use Lightning Reed and deal with the problem. Tall Nut is never used. You already have a stall plant in Walnut, and Tall Nut just is more expensive for the same effect that isn't really helpful. You should pretty much always just have other options to deal with whatever problems come your way. Specifically, you have Lightning Reed and you have Chili Bean. Alright, next up we have the two melons, the two behemoths, and I think these are both going to be in pretty much the same ranking. It pains me because I really want to put Winter Melon F tier for the clickbait thumbnail. However, it has to be D tier. I'm gonna put both of these in D tier. Its plant food effect is really good. You don't need me to tell you that, but they really do the same thing. Winter Melon is, you know, seen more in terms of levels, especially like in modern day. I think you see a couple of times where Winter Melon is used, but you never play with it in the speedrun. You never add it as one of your plants because it's just too slow. It costs too much, and there are always better ways to mow down the enemy zombies, and they're never used in speedruns unless if they're given to you as free plants, in which case the plant food effect is very good. I will say though that you do see melon like once, I think, in Wild West, because you see Winter Melon more in other speedruns, and Winter Melon is it's a nice plant, you know, it's an enjoyable plant to have on your side. Alright, and with that is part 1 of 3, and I am going to make this a 3-part series because this is a lot of work and a lot of editing, so I'm going to just start with this, and if you're interested in seeing a part 2, please let me know and I'll make it. Otherwise, I hope you have a good day, and please subscribe. Hello, post-editing Repacharge here. This video is the first time I've ever fully edited a YouTube video, and it was a behemoth to upload. It took at least 6 hours over the course of a day and a half to make. Because of this, I will only be making a part 2 if this video gets 1,000 views. Otherwise, the time investment is just not really worth it. That's all. I hope you all have a wonderful day.